Hello gamers and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to take a look back at a game that's very important to not only the landscape of Dragon Ball Z games today, but a game that is very important to my childhood, and that is none other than Dragon Ball Z Budokai on the PlayStation 2. If you guys are new to the channel, please do me a favor, smash the thumbs up button and subscribe. Help build up the channel. Can only do that with your support. So without further ado, let's jump into Dragon Ball Z Budokai on the PlayStation 2. Now, fun fact, this is actually my original copy of the game that I got on Christmas back in 2002. I still remember the day that I got this game. This game is really important for me for a number of different reasons. One, this is the last game that my parents ever bought me for Christmas. This game came out in 2002, and it was the final year that I was going to be living with my family. I was a senior in high school, and I was getting ready to move out on my own. And I remember seeing the game just being advertised all over the place. And what a lot of people don't realize is that this is a very important game to the history of Dragon Ball Z games. When you look at the landscape now, there are tons of Dragon Ball Z games. We're getting ready to get the new Budokai Tenkaichi 4 here, hopefully within the next year or two. But up until that point, there wasn't a whole lot of Dragon Ball Z games released in North America. They were mostly all over in Japan. Other than Legacy of Goku, there really wasn't anything else. There started being a little bit more Dragon Ball Z games released on Game Boy Advance, like Legacy of Goku. I remember picking that up and super excited. It wasn't the best game in the world by any means, but I did spend a lot of hours playing it because that's all we had at that time. A lot of people think that Final Bout and Ultimate Battle 22 came out before Budokai because it's released on the PlayStation 1, but that's not entirely true. These games were released over in Japan. You can play them in North America if you were able to like mod your PlayStation or have burned copies or something, but these games were actually released after Budokai. It wasn't until after the game was successful that they started going back into their back catalog and started releasing some of the older games. So Ultimate Battle 22 and Final Bout was released after, despite them being PS1 games and not PS2 games, which is kind of backwards when you think about it. But I remember going into a Walmart and seeing these, and I picked them up right away because I remember going over a friend's house and he had the bootleg copies of Final Bout, and I remember just playing that all the time, even though again, that game wasn't the best. So actually, Dragon Ball Z Budokai was the first big release over in North America. I remember seeing the commercials and the trailer, and I ran up to my parents. I'm like, hey, if you're gonna give me anything for Christmas, pick me up Dragon Ball Z Budokai. Like as a Dragon Ball Z fan, we were dying for video games. We were dying for content. Unless you had emulators and ROMs or bootlegs, you weren't able to play anything unless it was just like Legacy of Goku on the Game Boy Advance. So to get a 3D fighting game on the current platform, which was the PlayStation 2 at the time, was something very exciting. I remember just me and my friends were so excited about this game, and all of us picked up a copy of this game. Every one of us picked up a copy of Budokai, and I remember we skipped school a lot. And we used to go over to our friend's house. Each of us would have our own memory card, and we would all have our own custom profile and play against each other because we were able to like buy capsules and really kind of put the different movesets. So my Goku would be different than my friend's Goku, and depending on how much you play the game, you would be able to really customize your character very well and have like super powerful moves, sensu beans, all kinds of awesome stuff. So it was really a game for the fans that we haven't experienced in North America. Now we just take everything for granted, but Budokai was the game to really kind of start that trend. It was the first big game. The showdown of legendary proportions. It was so awesome to get a 3D Dragon Ball Z game back on that time period because it was just crazy. Because GT Final Bout, if you were able to play it, it just was not good, you know. But man, I remember just opening this game up and just playing it all day on Christmas, and it even came with a poster. Look, I still got my poster. Oh my god, I still have my poster for this game. That is crazy. And it has like, look at that, it has all the characters listed in the back, like all the different characters in the game and like their move sets and stuff like that. That's awesome. I haven't opened this up in forever. And you see where I used to hang it up because I have like the tack in each corners, which is crazy. But man, this game brings back a lot of memories to that Christmas and how much I played it. And I love the game so much. And look, the manuals in full color. It's crazy because we don't get stuff like this today, right? Like we don't get manuals. So it's really cool just to kind of go back and look at the past of these things and see the history of the games, where they came from. It's just really awesome to look at. And there were so many cool modes with this game because you can go into the story mode, which was fantastic because the story mode was laid out just like the show. So it would be broken up in different chapters. You would have narration over it, voice acting. They would reenact cutscenes with the new 3D models for the game. And it felt like playing the show. What was also great about the game was after you finished the first playthrough, you can go back and you can play bonus chapters using different characters to fill out the story. I just got done replaying through this game, and I have to tell you, like, my blood pressure really went up because I really don't remember that game being that difficult, but I fired it up and I played through the story, and man, it was really giving me a hard time. Frieza and Cell was really giving me a hard time. Jesus.
Don't like fighting, you know.
I'm not even getting close to beating him.
I don't like fighting, you know.
No, you son of a bitch!
I don't like.
Oh my God, bro! Gotta yourself, man. The one thing I really liked about the game was it had constant replay factor. Like I said, you beat the game, you go back, you unlock bonus chapters, but when you play through those bonus chapters, you unlock new characters, new skills for those characters. Today, all these games have DLC. You want extra characters, you have to buy the DLC, buy the season pass, do all that stuff. But with this game, when you beat the game, you go back and replay the game, you unlock chapters. That's how you unlock your characters. And then some of the skills, you have to go into the capsule shop and buy the skills. And in order to earn money, you have to play the world tournament mode, and then you compete and you win, and then you earn the money in order to buy the capsules that you're looking for. And the Dragon Balls are sometimes hidden in the capsules. You get the Dragon Balls, you can wish for special things. There was really a lot of stuff to do in this game back then, and it kept you busy for a while. You just didn't have that couch co-op 1 versus 1 mode, although that was there. You had your duel mode, you had your practice mode, but what was really great about this was we were competing with all of our friends in order to see who would be able to unlock all the characters, who would get all the special features, who would have the best character custom set. That was important because I remember I really decked out Frieza because I really wanted to get Frieza spaceship to where if Frieza gets KO'd, he comes back in his mech form and he's got full health again. And I remember that was something that I was really grinding hard to get. So I would constantly play through World Tournament mode in order to go back to get the Zenny to buy the Frieza spaceship capsule. So that was really awesome. The fact that it made you want to keep playing because you wanted to unlock more characters, you wanted to unlock more skills, and it was such a great experience at that time. Something I feel like video games are really missing today. Look out for Dragon Ball GT coming in 2003. Dragon Ball Super Android 13 available on VHS and DVD February 4th, 2003. I actually bought this on DVD. I think I bought it on VHS too. I'm not the biggest fan of this movie. I think it's okay. I'm not a big fan on the Dragon Ball movies in general because they're not really canon, but I remember enjoying this movie because I really like the Android saga. It's just really cool sometimes to go back and experience some of the games that set the foundation to the games that we have today. I don't think Dragon Ball Z Budokai is one of the best Dragon Ball Z games, but I think it's one of the most underrated ones because if it wasn't for the success of Budokai, we wouldn't have gotten the Tenkaichi series, we wouldn't have the mountains of games that we have today. It really relied on that game being successful in North America because anime was a very niche thing back then. That's hard to believe now because everybody and their mother watches anime, but you were a very select minority of people that watched anime in middle school and high school back in the early 2000s. it was a huge gamble. And if this game was not that successful, who knows where we would be, because we would not have gotten sequels, we probably would not have gotten re-releases, and we sure as heck would not be having the games that we've had today. Another thing that's really cool is a few years later on the Xbox 360 and PS3, they actually did a HD remake of this game and the third game in the Budokai HD collection, which I own on 360. Now, they didn't put the second game on here, mostly because the second game a lot of people really do not like because of the whole board game and everything like that. But I do have the HD collection, but I wanted to play for this video the actual PS2 version, mostly because they actually went and censored out a lot of stuff in this version, where they kept this one with all the gore and all that stuff. So this is the uncensored version, this is the censored version. Although I will say, if you're going to pick one up, I definitely say pick up this one. Budokai 3 is actually a phenomenal game as well. Another one I think that gets overlooked because of Tenkaichi 3, but I really enjoyed this collection. But I wanted to play through this just because I wanted to re-experience the joy I felt when I first got that game on Christmas back in 2002, and I just had a blast going back and replaying this game and just talking about this game and sharing my experiences with you guys. And I am very much looking forward to the future of Dragon Ball Z games. I cannot wait for the new Budokai Tenkaichi 4 coming out. It is definitely a game that's on my most anticipated list, and I'm excited for it. Now that we have finished Dragon Ball Z Budokai, it's time to jump into the more controversial title within the series, and that is, of course, Dragon Ball Z Budokai 2. So the question going into this review is very quite simple. Now that 20 years has passed, has Dragon Ball Z Budokai 2 aged better, or is it still one of those games that people look back on and say, you know what, that game wasn't really good? So spoiler alert, it's still not good. Which is a shame, because there was so much hype behind Budokai 2. Budokai 1 was really a massive success when you look at it in terms of what it did for the fan base. It revitalized the Dragon Ball Z games here in North America, which I want to point out that a lot of people came out and said, hey, Rob, just let you know that Final Bout was released before Budokai, and I fully understand that, even though I don't mention that in my Budokai review. Yes, Dragon Ball GT Final Bout had a very limited print run in North America, which was almost impossible to find, and a lot of people that did play it had burned copies with mod PlayStations, and that was really the only way to play it. It wasn't until much later on, with the success of Dragon Ball Z Budokai, that they went back and re-released Dragon Ball Z Ultimate Battle 22 and Dragon Ball GT Final Bout. And plus, at that time, Dragon Ball GT was beginning to air on Cartoon Network. So yes, I am fully aware that GT Final Bout was released prior on the PlayStation. However, it was such a limited print run that I just didn't bring that up, because I thought it was pretty much common knowledge. If you're watching this video, chances are you're a Dragon Ball fan and you already know that. But yes, just to try to clear the air, Dragon Ball GT Final Bout was originally released before Budokai, but the re-release came out after the release of Dragon Ball Z Budokai. Now, as I mentioned before, there was a lot of hype going into Dragon Ball Z Budokai 2. One, because the first game was very well received by the fans, and it revitalized, like I said, the Dragon Ball Z games in North America. Not only that, but Dragon Ball Z Budokai 1 ended at the end of the Cell Saga, and they were just wrapping up the Buu Saga on Cartoon Network in North America, which for fans like me, I love the Buu Saga. The Majin Buu Saga is my favorite saga within the Dragon Ball Z universe. I really love the Cell Saga and the androids and all that stuff. In fact, the Android Saga is what brought me in to loving Dragon Ball Z. I still remember the first time I watched Dragon Ball Z for the first time. It was a Saturday morning. I clicked on Cartoon Network and I seen this episode where this kid in purple hair is telling the main character that all these androids are going to come and just wipe out all the people, and that Goku was going to die of a heart virus. At that time, as someone who was a young teenager, we did not get animated cartoons on TV where main characters died. So I was instantly hooked, and I had to find out what was going to happen to these people. people when these androids attack in a few years. So I was instantly hooked in, and I became a massive fan of Dragon Ball ever since that episode. In fact, I used to go and buy all the VHS tapes because they used to have the episodes come out on VHS before they would air on Cartoon Network. So I finished the Buu Saga much earlier than it aired on Cartoon Network, and I loved the Buu Saga. I loved the Buu Saga so much that I actually have a Majin Buu tattoo on my forearm. There was just something about that character that I enjoyed because unlike Cell and unlike Frieza, he had no remorse. He could not be reasoned with. He was a killing machine, and that's all he cared about, was wiping out everything and anything. And I just love that saga so much. So when Dragon Ball Z Budokai ended at the Cell saga, I really thought that Budokai 2 was going to pick up the ball right where that game left off and continue rolling with the momentum going into the Buu saga. I mean, kinda, sorta. I mean, it's complicated. We'll get to it. So when you look at the cover art, you couldn't help get excited. It's like, it's everything you want to see. This cover went absolutely hard. Like, look at this cover. You have Vegito on the cover in color. You have this metallic silver background, which is just awesome, with Majin Buu in the back. And then when you go to the back, you see Evil Buu right there. We got a fusion going on. They changed the graphics to a animated cell shade graphics. Like, this looks awesome. You know, when you compare it to the Budokai 1 cover, like, this was great, but you were obviously getting the Cell saga, and this is going to be the follow-up with the Buu saga. That's what we all thought we were going to get, right? And like I said, it's complicated. So as I mentioned, it was only normal that we thought they were going to pick up right where the first game left off with the same type of story mode where you would go in and you would go through different levels and you would have these awesome cutscenes, and a lot of fans of that first game couldn't wait to jump into the Buu saga with the same type of story mode and everything, and they were just like, no, we're not doing that. We're doing a board game. Now, I actually went back and replayed this game this past week because I wanted to give this game a fair shot. Maybe there was something I was missing 20 years ago. Maybe the younger Rob was so disappointed that it wasn't like the first game that maybe I just automatically dismissed it. Maybe there was something redeeming about this game that I missed. So I replayed this game, and I'll tell you, I didn't miss a dang thing. It still sucks. It's still trash. The story mode really doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I never really understood why they did what they did, why they switched up the formula, why they went with the board game mechanic. The board game idea probably would have worked well if they would have put more effort into it. I personally loved what they did with the first game, where it basically felt like you were playing the TV show, and I wanted to see the second half of that within this game, and they didn't give it to us. Instead, they give us this board game, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense, because from the get-go, you have Radix and Nappa on the board. Radix in the anime dies before Nappa. Then you can pick whatever character you want to go along with you on this board journey thing, and one of the options is Teen Gohan, which doesn't make any sense because Gohan was a very, very little kid, didn't have any powers within that saga, but yet you could pick Teen Gohan. So already the story continuity is completely jacked. So anyone who is unfamiliar with the Dragon Ball Z storyline would pick this game up and have no idea that the continuity is completely different than that of the series. But okay, they're trying something different. Let's go along with it. Maybe this will be super fun, right? Like, maybe this will be like Mario Party, but with Dragon Ball. Let's jump into it. But it doesn't get any better than that. So you can go around the board and you can pick up power-ups like defense power-ups, attack power-ups, and even capsules to add to your character's overall abilities. And that is cool, but what really kind of gets you down in the dumps is how to complete each level. There's different challenges you have to complete. Some are like, hey, find the Dragon Ball, and you complete that challenge and you move on to the next board. And the other one is like, hey, defeat the Saiyans. But it's not as simple as just defeating the main enemy. Each character has this power meter bar on the left side of their icon, and depending on how many of those are lit up, you have to beat that character that many times. So when you're fighting someone like Frieza, I literally have to beat Frieza like 3 or 4 times in order to beat the mission so I can move on to the next board. It is very, very repetitive, and it gets old very, very quickly. It just feels like busy work and not good busy work, like not busy work that you do in like JRPGs where you're grinding and building up your character. It's just like, I already beat this character 2 times. Why do I have to beat this character an additional 2 times? Like, it doesn't make sense. I already beat his butt. Why do I have to keep continuing? Like, just submit, Frieza. Submit so we can move on. I am tired of this. I want to move on to the next saga. But it doesn't get better from there. From there, they just add more and more things that aren't in continuity. They try to do certain things to try to make it more challenging. Like the Buu saga, they have Babidi resurrect Frieza and Cell under the Majin curse, and it doesn't make sense continuity-wise. So for someone like me, who was super excited to finally get their hands on the Majin Buu saga and replay that video game form, I was extremely let down. Hell, I just replayed this game this week, and I was extremely let down again 20 years later. The game did not age well at all. The story mode was so bad that I went back and used the old hack that I did when I was younger by adding Goku's heart virus and the vaccine to my character, which would make my enemy's health drain quicker where I still stay healthy. So it helped me get through the story mode much easier, but it still felt like a massive chore, and it didn't get better no matter how much further into this story mode that we've got. They completely took out the CGI cutscenes. They have dialogue with a little bit of voiceover, and that's about it.
You.
Who are you? Are you?
You've got some. The Ginyu Force. Raccoon.
This is awful. This is absolutely awful. Now let's compare that to the first game.
But I want you to attack him with the Kamehameha wave. That's the only thing I can think of that will lay him out for sure.
But Dad, I only have the use of one of my arms, and my energy level is less than half.
No. You can do it, son. You just have to let go.
If you're playing this game for the first time, you would have no context of what is actually going on in this universe, and it was a massive disappointment. But with that said, not everything was gloom and doom for Budokai 2. There is some improvements over the first game. Like, for instance, the control scheme. It keeps the same control scheme as the first game. However, they improve upon it, make it much more easier to do stuff like Kamehameha and Gallic guns. There are way more moves this time. There's better transformations. Goku can go Super Saiyan 2, Super Saiyan 3. We have more characters. Team Gohan. We have Deborah, Majin Buu. We have different characters and different outfits for the characters, and they also introduce the idea of fusing in this game in order to get like Vegito or Gotenks, which was really awesome. And I really liked the graphic style that they switched up. The first game was like these 3D polygons, and in this game they went with the animated cell shaded look, and I much prefer that. So for me, they improved the control scheme, improved the graphics, did more things with the item shop and the world tournament, but when it came to the story mode, it was almost like it was an afterthought. It was like they improved all these different things, but then when they went to the story mode, they're like, look, we're not going to go through and do all these rendering cutscenes again. We're not going to do all these voiceovers. We're just going to slap a board game on it, make it look similar to what's going on in the story, and then we're just going to kind of call it a day. And that was extremely disappointing. I can't tell you how disappointed me and my friends were playing this game. The first game, we used to skip school and go over to each other's house with our memory cards and our custom characters and just play all day. But with Budokai 2, it was almost like people were ashamed to say that they had the game. It was just something that we really didn't talk about that much, other than the fact like, hey, this game isn't really good. It was a massive letdown. And that was basically the thought process of that game back in that time, where a lot of people that were excited with that first game was extremely let down. Now, if you're going into this game and you don't care about the story mode and you just want to play with your friends, I think you can fire this game up today on your PlayStation 2 and really have fun just battling back and forth. But the problem is, if you want all the characters and all the special abilities and all that stuff, you have to play through the story mode. And the story mode is such a grind to get through. That is the problem. If you want to unlock all the characters, you have to play through the story mode, which is fantastic idea in theory. I like games that reward you through playing the story mode. It gives the story mode replay value. But when you rather go get a root canal done than play the story mode, that is a problem. I think waterboarding would be more exciting than playing through this story mode again. That's how bad that story mode is. It's void of all fun, and that's where the problem lies. I'm cool with them trying to do something different. That's unique. That's awesome. Take chances. But when you take a game that was very, very critically successful with the fans, and you change the formula so much, and it's not fun, and it's not exciting, and you don't want to replay it to get your money's worth, then at the end of the day, Dragon Ball Z Budokai 2 was just a massive letdown then, and it's still a massive letdown today. But that is just my thoughts on it. At long last, we reached the end, the conclusion of our journey, as today we are going to take a look at and review Dragon Ball Z Budokai 3. So I had a blast so far going back and playing through all 3 games, starting with the original Budokai game that I feel is criminally underrated and has a huge part in the success that Dragon Ball Z games have in North America today. Dragon Ball Z Budokai 2 try to do something completely different. I personally don't feel like it worked at all, but I do commend them for trying to do something different. They could have easily just took what worked in the first game and just rehashed that, adding in the Buu Saga as the next installment, which me personally, I think that would have been a better way to go about it. But, you know, you have to commend them for taking chances. The one thing we can say as being fans of both video games and the Dragon Ball Z games is when you look back at all the Dragon Ball Z games, they really take a chance on each game. And that brings us to none other than Budokai 3, the final installment in the Budokai trilogy. So as you can see, they went with a very, very simple cover this time. It's basically just Goku doing the Dragon Fist, where you look at the other covers from the first 2 games, and there's a lot going on these covers. We see Goku, Cell, Vegeta, Piccolo, and over here we got Gotenks, Goku doing a Spirit Bomb, Buu in the background, and Vegito. I think this, out of all the covers, is probably my favorite cover because I like the metallic silver in it. It's one of the highlights. Unfortunately, the game kind of let me down. But when you look at Budokai 3, they really simplified the cover, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. Sometimes less is more, if that makes any sense. And I really, really like the overall presentation of the game. So I was flipping through the booklet as I was getting ready to replay this game on my live streams for the review, and I noticed that once again, the manual is in color. And that kind of like dawned on me, like, wow, the manual is in color. And you might be thinking to yourself, well, why is that a big deal, Rob? Why do you care if the manual is in color? It's not really a big deal, but it kind of tells me a little something. Let me explain. So when you look at all 3 manuals, the first manual is in color. They do a great job in color, kind of giving you breakdowns on the modes, the different controls, all that great stuff. Fantastic manual. Then we get to the second game. Like I said, is my least favorite out of the trilogy. And let's be honest, guys, there's a reason why they kept it out of the HD collection. But look at the manual for the second game. It's all done in black and white. So hold on a second. Budokai 3, it's in color. Budokai 1, it's in color. Budokai 2? It's not in color, guys. And I know what you're thinking. Why is that a big deal? Well, to me personally, when I'm looking at these manuals and I see 2 that's in color, 1 not in color, to me that tells me that they did not care about this game. This game was nothing but a fast cash grab. It looks like they spent a lot of effort and resources putting this game together. They actually took their time. The story mode was awesome. They did a great job establishing the first real big Dragon Ball Z game in North America. And then it felt like the second game was like, oh, hey, we got to hurry up and just release this game. We got to have a sequel to Budokai. And they really kind of just half-assed that game. And they kind of just slapped this board game on here. And it's like, here you go. This is the new mode. Have fun with it. And there's a reason why that's the least favorite within this series. because a lot of people look at it and they kind of tell it was just a cash grab. You can tell by the manuals. Now, I'll fully admit that might be me just looking too deep into things. It might not necessarily be important to a lot of people, but when you look at it and you look how great that first game was, and then you look at some of the things that they did with Budokai 3 with the new Dragon universe and being able to fly around and do all kinds of new things in the game, it really felt like the bookend of these games were the games they cared the most about. It was like, this was a great game establishing everything, and this was a great closure, and they all do something very different and unique. That's what I like about the series. They all do something very different and unique, but there's no doubt that this game and this game had the most attention and care put into them. And this is sort of like the redheaded stepchild that no one really likes, who kind of just gets shoved underneath the stairwell like Harry Potter.
Wake up, cousin! We're going to the zoo!
So this past week, I've been having a blast going back and replaying Dragon Ball Z Budokai 3. And for the most part, I had fun going back and replaying all these games for these reviews. And I really had fun just falling in love with the series again. Budokai 3, I remember when it was released, I had a lot of fun playing this game. I picked it up in 2004 when it was released and just had a lot of fun playing the Dragon universe, which is the new story mode, which I think does a really good job of taking the elements of the first game where the first game is just replaying parts of the series up to the end of the Cell Saga. They wanted to do that, but they didn't go with the cinematic cutscenes. Instead, it's all open world, and you can do different things within this open map. Like, you can fly around, look for capsules, you can find the Dragon Radar, search for Dragon Balls, and you go to different events on the map, and each event, for the most part, will be a different part of the story of the Dragon Ball universe, and I really enjoyed that. If you're Goku, you fight Radix, Nappa, Vegeta, Frieza, Cell, Boo, all the way up until the end of Dragon Ball Z. And what's really awesome about this is your character gets experience points every time he battles, so you can level up your character however you want. Me personally, I made sure to level up my health and my attack meter. That way I can just beat these guys really quickly. And I like the fact that you have variety of how you want to do this. It makes the game instantly replayable. And the reason why this game is more replayable than the previous two games is because of this Dragon Universe game mode. Because not only do you beat the game through the eyes of Goku, when you finish the game, you can go back and you can play the game through Vegeta, because each Z fighter fought different people and experienced different events throughout the Dragon Ball Z universe. Like, Piccolo fought Imperfect Cell. Goku never fought Imperfect Cell. So that's a different experience. It's a different experience for each individual character, and that made it infinitely replayable, and I enjoyed that. Whether you're looking for the Dragon Balls, whether you're looking for secret characters, there are events that happen throughout the game that you can unlock secret characters like Cooler. I was able to find Cooler in one of my missions, and I was able to play against him, beat him, and then when you beat him, you unlock him. And you can do that with many different characters, whether it be Omega Shenron. You can do that to unlock Super Saiyan 4 Goku. I tried to unlock those characters. I could not find those characters. I played through Goku story mode at least 5 to 6 times on live stream, and I wasn't able to unlock Super Saiyan 4 Goku. I would have to spend more and more time doing it. You have to do certain series of events. You have to be successful with the Spirit Bomb against Majin Buu at the end, and I wasn't able to pull it off. I keep pulling the move off, but Buu keeps beating me with that stupid meter, and I wasn't able to pull off the move successfully in order to unlock other characters after the story mode. But I do know Brawly's in the game, Omega Shenron, but you can unlock like Super Saiyan 4 Goku and all types of different characters that wasn't in the previous games, and I really enjoyed that. A lot of the other modes in the game are just recycle modes that we already got in the other two games. You got your World Tournament mode, your Duel mode, your Capsule Shot mode, nothing really different in terms of the other modes. Dragon Universe is the big mode that you're going to spend most of your time just playing through, and that's perfectly fine because, like I said, you can always go back with multiple different characters and just continue to play through the game with, and not only do you level up your character as you're playing through the game and you get to experience the Dragon Ball Z storyline through different eyes, but there's things that you can find. There's always things on the map that you can look for, you can pick up, and that makes the game infinitely replayable. Out of all the Dragon Ball Z Budokai games, Dragon Ball Z Budokai 3, I think, was the funnest one to play. Like, I was super excited to jump back into live stream because I remember having so much fun back in 2004 when I picked up the game. I remember I just spent a lot of hours doing the same thing that I was doing on stream, which was just going through the universe and grinding with these characters to unlock other characters. And to me, that's fun. To me, that's relaxing. A lot of people might look at that and be like, oh man, that's kind of boring. But to me, boring is going around a board game map, and there was really no continuity going on from the Dragon Ball Z series in this board game, so it wasn't really that fun to go back and replay. In fact, I played through it once, and I couldn't wait for it to be over, and I did not want to go back and play it again in order to unlock any characters. Budokai 1, I really enjoyed because it was a reenactment of the series. It really brought that cinematic level from the series, but Budokai 3 tried to do something different. I really commend them. They're like, hey, we're not going to worry about all these fancy cutscenes and whatnot. We're going to give you voice acting dialogue. We're going to have these stills. You're going to get a very good idea of what the story is because we're going to reenact the story, but we're going to do it through voice acting, visual pictures, and the battling system itself. And they kept really true to it. Like from the Saiyan Saga to the end of the Buu Saga, they pretty much hit every single note.
You have learned well, Goku. Your Kaioken technique surpasses even my own. But don't overuse it, and never go higher than 2 times power. Do you understand?
Sorry, but even 2 times power might not be enough to beat the opponent I have to face.
On a side note, one thing I did notice was the fact that they kind of glossed over Goku fighting Android 19 and Android 20, and they kind of just glossed over the heart virus thing altogether. Now, I know they were going through the main beats of the story, but I think it would have been really cool if Goku at least fought Android 19, because that was a huge fight. That was his first big fight after he came back from Namek. So they kind of glossed over that. That's not a deal breaker by any means. It was like, oh, they completely just left out Android 19 and Goku's battle on Earth, but it is what it is. That's just me being a fan and me just kind of noticing it, but newcomers will pick it up, and a lot of people I think will probably just not even notice it altogether. But I had a blast playing this game. I had a blast playing all 3 games. I really did. Like, all 3 games are great. Even Budokai 2, as much crap as I give that game, I commend that game. They got rid of the 3D art style from the first game. They went over to the cel-shaded art style, which I think looks much, much better. They also introduced like the fusion and all that great stuff. So Budokai 2 does have its place within this series, even though to me it's the least best out of the 3. But I had a blast just going back, live streaming these games for the past couple weeks and playing through them. Budokai 1, I still stand as, is probably one of the most underrated Dragon Ball Z games of all time, just because of the importance of that game and what that game ended up doing for the other Dragon Ball Z games here in North America. Like, that is extremely important. But to me, no doubt, I think Budokai 3 was the best one out of the trilogy, but that's just my thoughts on it. I want to know what you guys think. Which one is your favorite out of the trilogy from Budokai 1 to Budokai 3? Which one is your favorite? Leave those comments in the comment box below. Smash that like and subscribe button. And until next time, as always, I am Rubber Storms, and thank you for watching.